This is Love Notes, daily devotions from Holy Trinity Lutheran Church. Grace and peace to you. Our text today is taken from the Confessions of St. Augustine. Augustine, one of the most influential theologians and teachers of not just the early church, but even today, lived from 354 to 430. He straddled the 4th and 5th centuries. He lived at a time when the church was continuing to spread. Augustine was born in North Africa. He is of Berber descent and became the Bishop of Hippo in North Africa later in his life. But he didn't begin as a Christian. He was born to a very Roman father and had a very Christian and devout mother named Monica. She's one of the few parents that you'll find remembered in the list of saints for almost all churches because of the influence she had on her son and his subsequent influence on the whole church. Augustine's confessions are autobiographical. He uses his own life to talk about his journey from having no faith to having a deep faith. It is one of the still most widely read autobiographical pieces that you'll find in Western literature. It's hard to underestimate Augustine's influence on the church and on the philosophy that guides the West. Today we begin nearly at the beginning of Augustine's Confessions. He says, "You are mighty, Master." He makes a song of praise of this at the beginning. You are to be praised with a powerful voice. Great is your goodness, and of your wisdom there can be no reckoning. This is a high praise turned to the God whom Augustine has come to have faith in so deeply. And then he says, yet to praise you is the desire of a human being who is some part of what you created. In other words, Augustine's claiming no significant accomplishment in his praise of God. His point is that because God has made us and because God's grace has formed us, there is a part of us that can't help but praise God. And when we resist that, as we're going to hear throughout Augustine's writings in the coming days, then we find ourselves at odds with the universe, with God, and with ourselves. To praise you is the desire of human beings, who is some part of what you created, a human hauling his deathliness in a circle. Augustine here acknowledges the fact that we are mortal and God is not, and that our mortality, our deathliness, is something that we carry around with us from the time we're born until the time we die. Unlike God, we are not eternal creatures, and so we tote this burden with us, this burden of death, throughout the days of our lives. Using the same metaphor, he says, hauling in a circle the evidence of his sin and the evidence that you stand against the arrogant. For Augustine, the reality of death and our lack of immortality is a root of our sinfulness. When we try to resist that, when we try to be immortal, eternal, when we try to be something that we're not, then we run headlong into sin, separation from God. We try to be our own gods, if you will. And so we haul our sin around in a circle. It's kind of like the treadmill metaphor of modern times. We get on the treadmill and we can't get off. Augustine says we haul it around in a backpack, so to speak, and we can't get rid of it. We bear the image of God. There is a divine spark, a kinship that we have with God that is attested to throughout the scriptures. And Augustine leans on this as heavily as anyone else. Much of what Augustine is going to teach is that our relationship with loving God is also then a path to loving our true selves, to discovering who we really are. He says, but still a mortal, we humans, a given portion of your creation. We've been given life as a grace, as a gift, but we long to extol you. In yourself you rouse us. The motivation to worship God comes from God. Augustine is one of the theologians who supports the idea and has built the foundation for the notion that if God did not want to be known, if God was wanting to be far off and inscrutable, well, then God would be that. But the fact that we ask our questions into the night sky, why? Why am I here? Who are you, God? What has created me? Is all evidence that we are, in fact, being roused by God to praise. And that gives us delight in glorifying God. And then probably the most famous quotation of St. Augustine comes, because you made us with yourself as your goal, and our heart is restless until it rests in you. You have made us for yourself, and we are restless until we rest in you. Augustine, even though he lived so long ago, diagnoses exactly the problem of 21st century people and humans all the way along. We are restless, looking for something to fill the hole within us, looking for something to quicken our heart, looking for something that gives us truth about the way the world is and who we are, and that will only be found when we rest in God. All of our other attempts will go for naught. We will search on our own, and we will only find alienation, anxiety, angst. We will only find more heartache and restlessness. It takes God to fill the hole, to calm the anxiety, and to answer the question, who are we? Our hearts are restless until they find their rest in you. Not a bad idea to carry around with us each and every day.